What's up, everybody? It's Alex Leak and Friends NBA podcast back for another week. I'm your host, Alex Leak. We got Dustin back on the show as always. Dustin, good to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And we got a special guest, former NBA player Xavier McDaniel. Thanks so much for coming on the show, XMan.
Oh, anytime, man, anytime. Thank you
Now,
for
for
having
those of
me.
you that don't know, XMan is a 12-year NBA small forward for the Sonics, Suns, Knicks, Celtics, and Nets. He's a former NBA All-Star and one of only 3 players in college basketball history to lead the NCAA in scoring and rebounding in a single season.
It was the first.
The first ever, yeah.
Yes, the first ever.
Let's start at the beginning. So you played your high school ball at AC Florida in Columbia, South Carolina, right?
Correct.
What was it like playing high school in those days? Did you have NBA as a goal or a dream back then?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I had NBA goal. I would say in my younger days, growing up, me and my friends played a lot of baseball.
Okay.
That's what we played all day, every day. But then by middle school, I started to grow a little bit. Something happened. I just started growing. I was like maybe always an inch or two taller than everybody, most of the people. And man, by 8th grade, now I'm 5'10". Go that summer, I'm going to high school 6'1". Finished that year up, almost 6'4".
Wow.
Come back for my sophomore year, I'm still about 6'4". And by the time I end my sophomore year, I'm like 6'5". I come back to high school, my junior year, I'm 6'6". I come back again for my senior year, I'm 6'7". And I even grew a half an inch in college.
Wow.
So I started to grow, and baseball became secondary to me. I mean, when I say I was really into baseball, it wasn't like Michael Jordan, where he played since he was in Little League. I played all the way up until I was 18 years old baseball.
Wow.
So I started off like 8, 9 years old playing baseball. And it was an all-star on every level that I played. And I just started getting into basketball, and I got into it. And basketball just took over for baseball. I still got a lot of love for baseball. I watch baseball to this day.
Yeah.
And I love football. I played a little bit of football in high school, but I played football since 8 years old to like 15. So a lot of people don't remember me from that in high school, but I did play 2 years of high school ball. But basketball just took over, man, and the love for basketball just became so much greater than the other sports. And then I just started concentrating on basketball and finding my skills and stuff.
Were you a powerful dunker? Could you dunk it hard back in high school? Was that early on?
I'll say them first few years, you like 9th grade, and you're trying to dunk. Like 8th grade, I could bounce it and catch it right at the rim and punch it in. But then 9th grade, I had to get on that left side so I could come down the middle and dunk. Mm-hmm. But by the time I got to be a junior, it started to come very easily. Yeah. I still couldn't dunk with the left hand that way. I just do 2 hands on one hand, right hand. And then when I got to college, I can't believe you can't make a left hand layup. And he worked me until I could learn to use my left. And I started learning to use my left. If you ever watch me play, you'll see that I used to shoot jump hooks with the left hand, running hooks with my left hand, layups with my left hand. Yeah. I didn't start doing that until I was 19 years old.
Yeah.
And so I would say out of all sports, basketball was a lot harder. Baseball came easy, came natural. My uncles played baseball. I was a ball boy for them. They played sandlot baseball. So I learned how to catch. I learned how to pitch. I learned how to play first. I learned how to play third, the outfields. So baseball just became natural to me. Basketball was a lot harder. It's a lot more grinding, a lot more physicality to it. But evidently, I picked it up and had a 12-year career.
Yeah, absolutely. And then did you play with, I believe you played with Tyron Corbin on your high school team?
Yes, we
What-
played together my ninth grade through 12th grade. We played 4 years together. He
Nice,
went to DePaul University, and I went to Wichita State University.
nice. And what led to you choosing Wichita State?
Ooh, boy, that would be a whole nother segment. But I'm gonna
Yeah.
give you the short version.
Okay.
I wanted to go to USC. I was ready to commit to USC, and they wanted me to go to prep school.
Okay.
And they wanted me to go to prep school, and I could understand why they wanted me to go to prep school, but I couldn't understand why you didn't tell me before you offered me a scholarship. And so I get in some trouble and stuff with my friends I grew up with. And so my grades wasn't very good. And so they felt like I should have went to prep school. My first 2 years of high school, I had like a D- grade point average. I wasn't doing hardly anything.
Hmm.
And we got a new coach, Carl Williams, and he basically got me straight. And I started hitting the books, and I got the grades, and then they backed out on me. They don't like to tell people this, and I believe that, if they were had to sit in front of me, they would have to tell the truth. They know they jerked me around,
Yeah.
and so I opened up my recruitment, and I took a visit to Memphis State, Ole Miss, Clemson, and Wichita State. And those were my schools of choice.
Nice.
And so I didn't think I was never going to go to Clemson because I've always been a Gamecock fan. You either one of the two here.
Yeah.
We have stuff to say the house is divided.
Yeah.
The house is divided. And so what attracted me, I think it really came down to Wichita State and Memphis. And I'll tell you why. They played exactly the way I want to play, up and down. They both like to get out and run. And that's the type of offense I knew I wanted to be in. And the Coach Gene Smith put on, I went to his house that Sunday before my flight, and he was like, "You like to run?" And he's showing me Antoine and Cliff, and he was like, "Look at that, that guy's 6'9". He's going to be a fucking pro." And I'm looking at him like, he said, "I let him dribble. Can you dribble?" I said, "Yeah. High school coach don't let me dribble." He said, "You can dribble here, as long as you don't turn it over." And then he's like showing me alley-oops, Cliff and Antoine catching. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
We thought alley-oop, we better catch it in high school. We still could get in trouble, even if we catch it. We we decided, I decided that when I got home and I decided, I told my mom, I told my dad, I said, I think I'm going to go to Wichita State. I've already been to Memphis. And I like what they were showing me too. And I'm going to be honest, back in the day, when you go to a campus, you couldn't even play ball. Like now, they can do it now. But when I went to Memphis, they had this old piece, and I doubt if it's there, real old. And they had people shut the gym down, and we just play ball. I had a great time there. Had a great time. And actually, back then, that was against the NCAA rules. I didn't tell my high school coach. I only recently started to tell the story now because, I mean, you're talking 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And, man, we just balled out, man. I had the best time just playing basketball. Who cares about campus on a recruiting trip? Only thing you want to do is eat and play ball. That's what most athletes want to do, and that's what I did. So I got back, and I was telling my high school coach on both visits, after I got back, I said, "Coach, I think I got it narrow, but I'm going to let you know." I talked with my parents, and my parents was like, they wanted me to leave because I actually grew up less than a half a mile, quarter of a mile from USC campus. And my mom and dad felt like even if I went to USC, all my friends were going to be there. They wanted me to grow up and be a man. I ain't going to tell no lie. Back in the day, I may fight you, but I was really a mama's boy. I was really a mama's boy. And so I choose Wichita State, and South Carolina was like, how you going to get there? It's like my grandmother and my high school coach got me a bus ticket because, they try to say that I couldn't afford to get there. But my high school coach and my aunt, and my grandmother bought my bus ticket. I took a
Nice.
bus to Kansas. That's my first. I took a bus to Kansas. That's how I got there. And 36 hours
Wow.
is what it took me to get there. I got there, and my grandma said, if you don't like it, you got a round trip ticket. You can always jump back on the bus. My daddy looked at me and said, don't come back here. You stay out in Kansas. Ain't no room for you.
Yeah.
And my mom looked at me and I was like, you heard what your daddy said. We don't want you to come back. And I didn't come back for almost 9 months. And that was spring break. First time I came back because I was put on probation. So it
Yeah.
was my first trip back to Columbia. And so it was an experience from home. It was tough at first. I was used to mama's cooking every morning, every lunch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And eating
Mhm.
dorm room food was not very good.
Yeah.
But that's how I got out there. South Carolina dropped the ball.
Yeah. Yep. And Wichita State benefited from it. And um, especially your senior year, putting up 27.5 points per game and 15 rebounds. What was it like dominating the competition like that your senior year?
To be honest, I don't know how I did it because I did it in double teams, triple teams, and I never forced a shot. I mean everybody forces a shot, but I mean, when you look at a guy who scores 27 points, you think I took 27 shots.
Hmm.
I only shot 18, 19 shots a game. I shot a high percentage because we had an offense and it was just a motion offense. Everybody used it back then. Back picks and down screens, and you're constantly moving. And so my first couple of years, it was mostly layups and dunks. And then the coaches came to me and said, you need to start learning to expand. I'm sitting there looking at them like, y'all must be don't remember. I was a small forward in high school. And a lot of people didn't realize that I was a small forward. And me and Tyrone were both small forwards. We had a big high school team. We had a guy, James Hildebrand. He went to Wisconsin. Robert Brandon went to Kent State, transferred, went to Crowder Junior College in Missouri, and went to Arkansas, played football and basketball for Arkansas. And then we had Anthony Snooks at Southern Illinois, Tony Pugh, not Tony Pugh, Tony Ashford went to South Carolina State. So I played with like 6 guys that played D1 basketball, counting me, 5 other
Damn.
guys that played D1 basketball. So when they told me I could do the shooting again, I was like, exchanged my range. And I was like, it was just getting back in the gym, getting familiar with what I used to do at high school. Because most people don't see me as that physical player. Anybody in Columbus said, oh man, Xavier was a finesse player. But
Yeah.
when I got to
Wow.
college, you got Antoine Carr, you got Cliff Levingston, you got Ozell Jones, you got Greg Drawling, you got Arby Sherrod, you got Tony Martin, Jay Jackson, you got Mike Jones, man, them guys can play.
Yeah.
And, being rated number 4 in the country, our team at that time, AP, UPI, before we got put on probation, we was the 4th rated team in the country behind North Carolina, I want to say Georgetown, and I'm not sure who that 3rd team was, but we had a good team, man. We had
Yeah.
a very, very good team, and we had a real good big team. And Greg Drawling played in the NBA, and he transferred and went to Kansas. I never forgave him for that. But we had a very good team, man. And so I wound up, if I want to play, I had to change my style up because we had Mike Jones, small forward, and we had Jay Jackson, small forward. I was a small forward. Cedric Phillips was a small forward. And then we had Antoine and Ozell Jones had just transferred out. And he went to Cal State Fullerton. And then you got Greg Drawling, Cliff Levingston. Man. So I had to get in there mixing up with them big boys at 195 pounds. So I kind of changed my game. But then when I got to the pros, I had to change my game to be more of a small forward. So, it was tough. Because like I said, I tell anybody, you're, I think it's 1,400 miles from Kansas. That was the toughest time of my life, especially that first year.
Yeah.
But I loved it. When I
Yeah.
look back on it, it was the right decision.
Nice. That's awesome. Dustin, you got a question?
Yeah, in 1995, you were drafted fourth overall by the Seattle Supersonics, and ahead of stars Chris Mullin, Karl Malone, and Joe Dumars. Patrick Ewing being number one overall. What was your draft? What was your draft experience like, and were you excited to join the Supersonics?
Yes, I was. Somebody asked me that same thing, and they threw them names in there. And I was like, you look at that group, a lot of people say, oh, man, he got drafted over Xavier McDaniel. Oh, he got drafted. But when you go back and look at the numbers, my numbers is just as good as any of them first 5-6 years in the NBA.
Yeah.
And people don't realize that I played on a bum knee from January of 88 to May of 88 when we lost to Denver in the first round. I had more success than any of those guys early in my career. We went to the Western Conference their first 2 years with Seattle. Then the next year we lost in the first round. We went to the second round against Houston, and we beat Houston in the first round, lost to the Lakers in the second round. And what I personally think over the time, my knee just got back. It needed to be repaired when I hurt it. And I played on it for like 5 months on a bum knee. I tore my meniscus, I tore the cartilage under my kneecap, and I played. And I remember them telling me, oh, it's not going to worry about it. Ain't going to bother you. It doesn't matter if you have surgery today or later. And I played from January. And I can't remember. I know the game. I heard it against the Utah Jazz in January. I want to say around January 26th, 23rd. It was late January when I heard it. And I didn't have surgery until like May. Right after we lost Denver, I went in to have surgery 4 days later.
Wow.
And then the next year I came off the bench. And then the next year I started. Then that's when I started getting traded. But those first 5 years, 6 years, man, my number was just as good as anybody. And that's what I tell people. Numbers don't lie. Joe Dumars had a great career, he played with a great team. He went to the right organization. And Karl Malone definitely went to the right organization. But I tell people out of that draft, I was more ready for anybody in that draft, including Patrick Ewing. Patrick Ewing might have been the best player in that draft, but I felt like I was Rookie of the Year. Because when you go look at his 50 games, he played 9 games over 500. I played all 82 games.
Yeah.
You take my 32 worst games, I think they all star numbers. I averaged 17 a game and 8.5 rebounds a game.
Yeah.
And he averaged 20 points and like 8-9 rebounds a game. And me and him had this discussion all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I love Patrick Ewing. Anybody tell you that's my man. But I just felt like I was Rookie of the Year. I think that the NBA fit my style of play. And, a lot of people don't realize, even when I went to New York, if you go look up, now I know this because I remember like yesterday, I bought my contract out January 28th. I gave the Knicks $500,000 to buy my contract out. I had the first buyout than anybody. A lot of people don't realize that.
Wow.
But go look it up. Nobody bought their contract out until I did. Nobody. I was the first one. They get out of them free now. I paid $500,000. And before I bought my contract out, I was averaging about 18 a game. If you go look at the stats and got them on NBA.com, you can go look it up that year, and you'll see I was averaging about 18.5 points a game and like 7 rebounds. And I bought my contract out, and they stopped playing me.
Wow.
And so I felt like I got lowballed it, and that's why I signed with Boston, because now the signing date's in July. They didn't offer me a contract. I called them. David Falk called them, and they're like, "We're gonna offer X a contract," and they never did. And I never got a contract offer at all. That's the funny thing. A lot of people think that they offered me. They didn't offer me a contract at all. Only thing they did was during the season was like, if you want your 500 back, because I had $1.8 million and $1.8 million, and I was like, no, I'm gonna play it out. And if you go back and look up the stat, you'll see me play like first quarter and possibly some of the third quarter. Then I come out, and a lot of times I didn't play no more.
Wow.
So that's what basically happened. But I mean, and I still played a lot less than a lot of those guys because, you know, I only really played 11 and a half. I wasn't playing in New Jersey. I never played for money. So I talked with Cal and we just said, hey, just go ahead and release me. So when you look at the numbers, my numbers is just as good as them, especially early in my career. Later in my career, no, you know, but earlier, and I felt like throughout my career, I should have made the All-Star easily 4 or 5 times. No, I'm on the phone and you won't listen. I'm on the phone, sir. So I felt like I should have been an All-Star, especially when it was in Seattle. Tom got it by default with Ralph Sampson being hurt. But I mean, I averaged 23 and almost 8.5 rebounds that year.
Yeah,
You know,
I mean,
so,
that's something that I think a lot of people don't realize is like they look at your, you know, highlights and your game tape and remember you as a player, like a defender and a, you know, physical and a dunker and stuff like that. And they don't
right,
realize that you could shoot the ball. You had mid-range, you could
right.
shoot the three and put up real good numbers, especially in Seattle.
Yeah. I didn't shoot the three that well. Well, I didn't shoot it at all. This is what we were doing to shoot around. Bernie Bicker's staff say, McDaniel, go shoot a three. And if I make it, the first play he gonna call sometime, we had a play called 3 up. That's a screen roll with Tom. You got Dale and Outlist on the other side. And they know I ain't gonna shoot the three. And he'll throw it to me and I'll pump fake and drive. And he'll look at me and say, I told you to shoot the three. But I think I shot like 27%. And most of them was like last second shots, shot clock running down, or at the end of the quarter, I'll get that mug and try to throw it up from half court or somewhere. But, you know, the emphasis wasn't on the three the way it is today.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I would have shot if I had to do it on a full-time basis, but I just know I shot like 27%.
So you played all 82 games a lot in your career. In your first 3 of your first 4 seasons, you played all 82 games. Did you take pride in that? And what do you think of the way the game is played today, where players rarely ever play 82 games?
Well, I took pride in it because I like playing basketball. Tell me what job that you wake up, go play basketball, and then they pay you. Now, you may wake up and go play basketball, then you got to go to work. I got to go play for 2 hours. And I'm going to tell you, man, I think if you talk with Derek McKee, Nate McMillan, or Dale Ellis, or Tom Chambers, anybody, Frank Matato the best trainer in the NBA.
Yeah.
I mean, because even when I wasn't hurt, he was like, come on, get some stem. And I used to be sitting around sometimes, everybody say, Frank, your daddy, boy. Because me and him always sitting in the training room. I'm always getting stem or some type of, what they call them, they put the cream on you and they rub your ultrasound. I mean, I was always doing so. Even when I wasn't hurt, I would just go in and get treatment, you know? And so everybody used to say, Frank Matato, it was my daddy. And I was like, he's one of the best trainers. But, I mean, my pain tolerance was high. And so, you know, if I could play, I'm going to play. You know, those, I think like 87, 88, I think I missed those 4 games. I know that first one, I'll never forget it. We played Utah, and we had to play the Clippers the next night. And I woke up, and I couldn't hardly get out of bed.
Wow.
And I called my boy who was staying with me. He got me to the airport. And Frank went to work, but I just couldn't play. My knee had swelled up because Olin Polynice fell on my knee after a charge, and that's how I hurt my knee. We had played Utah the night before, and then the next morning we were flying to play the Clippers. That was the first game I missed.
And then, so let's talk about some of the, you know, you defended some of the greatest players in NBA history. You know, you're talking about Larry Bird, Julius Erving, you know, your position, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman. Who was it that you, you know, enjoyed playing defense against the most? What were the biggest challenges in the NBA against all those dogs? Who was the toughest?
I don't know if I really liked it.
Yeah.
But I had to play him. I don't know if I really like him. I mean, I was telling some people the other day on another podcast that wow, let's say you're out west. We play Portland. And then we got to turn around and play the Lakers. Then you got to turn around and play the Clippers with Marcus Johnson. And then, you got Kiki Van. We got all these guys, Jerome Kersey, Kenny Carr. You got Larry Nance in Phoenix. There were so many guys that you had to compete against. Purvis Short, Mike Mitchell from San Antonio, Purvis Short with the Golden State Warriors. You got Eddie Johnson when he was with Sacramento before he went to Phoenix. Then you got Larry Bird, Dominique Wilkins.
Yeah.
You got Albert King and Bernard King. You got I miss Rodney McCray. I mean Mark Aguirre, Dominique Wilkins. It was a tough position in basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And you stayed in a lot of foul trouble. I know I did. Because I literally got out and tried to play defense. But that was the toughest position. Then you got, like you said, Dr. J.
Yeah.
And then if he goes out the game, you got Charles Barkley.
Yeah.
You got Adrian Dantley. You got Kelly Chapuka. You got Glenn Rice. You got Scottie Pippen. I mean, it's just the list just keep going on, man. It's so tough. And then as you get older, then you got Larry Johnson and these guys that play like you, but a lot bigger than you at that small forward. They 6'6", 6'7", 220, 240.
Yeah.
So it was a tough position, man. But I'm gonna tell you, I woke up every day ready to play.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna, and then I forgot about my homeboy Alex English.
Yeah.
It was just so many great stars, man, that you can't. I tell people all the time, it's hard to just put it because everybody plays so different. Rodney McCray, before Scottie Pippen. You got Alex English, who is not physical, skinny. He's a runner, and he shoots all his shots off different legs and different angles. And then you got big game James Worthy that you play him left, he throw left hand hooks on him. You play him right, he throw right hand hooks on him. You play off him, he shoot the jump shot. Then you got Kiki Vanderway, man. When I first got in the league, man, I was like, oh my God, this dude can play. And he would dunk on you. And then he come out the game, they got Kenny Carr coming in and trying to frustrate you. He's 6'7", 240, or Jerome Kersey.
Yeah.
And it was then you go down there and play Mark Aguirre in Dallas. And then you got to go to Dominique. Then you got to go to Larry Bird. It was just so many people, man. Then, even guys that some people forgot, like Gene Banks. These guys are physical, they're strong. That was a tough position, man, but I enjoyed it. I felt like I held my own against a lot of them.
You did. You're, a great defender. And speaking of Larry Bird, he was one of the toughest defenders, one of the best players of all time.
Right.
And surprisingly, a lot of people don't know, a big time trash talker. What was it like? You have a couple stories about dealing with Larry Bird and then getting him back.
Yeah. I'll tell you, we played him. My grandmother had just died. I probably should have just went home. I wasn't in the game. My grandma, I did no wrong. No matter what I did, me and my friends did. I never did wrong with that lady. And when she passed, I was really hurt. And I flew home after that game. And my mom was like, man, Bird, bust your ass, ain't it? I was like, I was going Kevin McHale. And so I was sitting there like, okay. So we had to play him again. And Bernie Bickerstaff was like, Derek McKee got him. I was like, hell no, he don't. I got him. He said, you want to guard him? I said, fuck yeah, I want to guard him. I'm not scared of Larry Bird. I said, when your mama started calling, my mother didn't even know how to watch sports. She didn't start really watching sports until afterwards. Most people in the neighborhood would just tell her what I did.
Yeah.
So he was like, well, you got him. I said, you damn right I got him. And I was holding him. I held him to like 9 points. It was going into the fourth quarter, and he was like, "Oh, Xavier, I'm finna bust your ass. It's the fourth quarter." And I said, "You better look up at that score. I've been busting your ass all night." But I mean, that guy would talk trash to you, and we wound up winning that game. But it was another game. He was like, "Yeah, X, I'm finna get it right here, and I'm gonna shoot it in your effing face." And I was like, "I know you're gonna get it. I'm gonna be right here waiting on you." And we went back, basically almost that same spot. I'm jockeying for position, and he hit me just enough for me to go back to get that shot off. And you can see me jumping at the shot.
Yeah, it's good
And he
defense.
nailed it. And he looked at me and was like, "Damn, I didn't even need to leave 2 seconds on the clock." I was like, "Fuck you." And so, um, and then another story, I was signed with Boston, and they had just took the beer out the locker room. And he came in there looking for a beer, and he was like, "Damn, Xavier, I thought you was a fucking tough guy. They would have never took this damn beer out the locker room. Hard as I play, they know I want to drink me a beer after the game." I looked at him and said, "Man, I'm just new to the team, man. I don't know." Everybody in there laughed and said, "Man, Larry Legend, go drink him a beer." And but I had D Brown and Rick Fox start bringing the beer because the Celtics took it out the locker room. I make them bring the beer in. They were my rooks. But Larry was hilarious. Dominique, Mark Aguirre, all those guys, man, they gonna talk some trash to you.
Yeah.
I'll only talk if you talk to me. You know.
What do you think of like the league, like, the quick technical fouls trying to take the talking out of the game? As a fan, I loved it. I love seeing players going back and forth, and now they're trying to take that all out.
Well, I think because some people, like I was listening to some Kevin Garnett said he'll talk about people mama. And Kevin Garnett's from South Carolina. He's not from Chicago, you guys. He's from South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And I would tell him as a teammate or opposing player, don't talk about nobody's family because you get your ass whipped.
Yeah.
In my day, you get your ass whipped for talking about somebody's parent, mother. You probably talk about their daddy, but you ain't gonna talk about nobody's mama. You ain't gonna talk about nobody's wife. I think those were offline, and I think people have went a little far with it because people talk, and they never said nothing official. They used to be sitting over there laughing. But I think they try to clean the game up a little bit because, like I said, I heard, like Kevin Garnett said he was, because that was on the end of my career, So he was just coming in the league, and I was about ready to leave. And he said, talking about people will wait on you at the locker room. You would have to get an escort. You and your boys gonna have to fight that night. So I think some of these guys have taken it overboard a little bit.
Yeah.
Because and I know guys used to fight back then, and I remember all Gilliam, and that's when they stopped us from going into if there was an altercation, you couldn't go into the locker room, the visiting team or the home team locker room, because you had just got in a fight. Because I remember Arlen Gilliam knocked Pearl Washington out in the locker room. They got in a fight. And while everybody was back out, they done took him to the locker room and left. He went in the locker room and knocked them out. They come in the game, he in the shower, knocked out.
Wow.
So, I think that a lot of things like that have led up to the league being a lot cautious because, like let's say Mike them come to town and I'll have some friends in town, I'll take them in the locker room and get autographs. If you didn't have no altercation, then most times they didn't say anything. But when you get altercation, I remember one time me and Dennis Rodman got into they would not let me because they knew I was what I was going to do. Because at some point, you got to let people know what time it is.
Yeah.
And I felt like Dennis, when I was talking to Ron Thorne about the fight, he hit me in the private twice, and the official never called nothing. And at what point, and I'm on the floor first time, he didn't get me. The second time, he got me good because we had to call the 22nd timeout. And I was like, look, it's right up there. And the official was like, well, I didn't see it, Xavier. I said, man, you don't call this fucking tech. I'm going over there for fucking bitch. I'm going to beat his ass. And that's just what I did. They didn't call it. I went to the bench and beat his ass. And he trying to get away. Nah, motherfucker, bring your ass over here. You want to be tough, man, goddamn. We're going to show you. So, certain things you couldn't do and certain things you could do. Sometimes it could be talking trash, but it's friendly talking trash,
Yeah, there's like a respect factor that should be there.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dustin. You got a question?
Okay, so I wanted to sneak in a small little question before I ask you what I have on my notes.
Yeah.
So you were mentioning like playing through an injury and the toughness. Was that pretty common for them to like play through a major injury back then, or was it?
Yes. Yes. A lot of guys played through injury. I don't think I was. I know I've had about 5 or 6 concussions and played through it. Probably the worst one I had was in in Portland. I got hit on the head. Remember how the cartoon character bump used to grow?
Yeah.
That's what they told me I had on my head.
Wow.
I was out the game a long time. I just remember getting the sniffing salt. They didn't let me back into the game until I knew where I was at. And after the game, I had a knot about that big on my head. And
Jeez.
The NBA would label you. They label guys now today. Back then, if you didn't play hurt, you were soft and different things. And so, but I didn't play because of that. I played because I felt like I could play. And so, if the training staff tell me I can play, and they see me running and they ask me if I'm okay, and they give me okay. Shit, I went out there. I just played. I'm paying for it at age 59 now, but when you're 24, 25 years old, you don't feel that effect until you start getting in your late 30s, your early 30s. Because one time I went up and dunked, I was like, oh shit, I barely made that dunk. This used to be a routine dunk for me, easy. So yeah, a lot of teams, they expect you to play.
Yeah, I only asked because it's a different era and the NBA is a little soft in my opinion when it comes to injuries.
Well, I think that when you're paying a guy, let's say you're paying James Harden $47 million on Steph Curry.
Yeah.
You would rather have him out 5 games than to possibly test something up. And now you got a max contract. I think the max contract for Curry would be like 250, something like that.
Yeah. So much
Probably
money.
more than that.
Yeah.
There's so much more money involved where these guys are making 41 times more than what I made. Think about it. I made 800. Actually, the first year I made 500,000. Second year I made 650, 875, 875. So
That's
think
crazy.
about that. 875 was my biggest day my first 4 years in the league. And so a lot of people now, they're trying to save the guys. And, even saying things like rest. I had never heard that before. Rest days. I heard it in baseball. They played 162 games.
Yeah.
So I heard that, baseball, they play a lot of games, double hitters, And so in basketball, I never heard of that until, now. So, you get to Steph Curry. I mean, I've been one time, I played against the Knicks, and I had 41, and I had a pull hamstring.
Well,
And I went and played Oakland that night. Nobody knew but a team. And it was like, when you guard Oakland, because guarding Oakland, I ain't got to go side to side. And so there's a card of me with a thigh pad wrapped around. I had a bruised thigh and a hamstring injury. And I played with that because, and I post up the whole time. Tom went and played the offense on small forward, and I played offense at the power forward slot. So that way I didn't have to do a lot of running. I was just sitting on the box. And I scored a lot of points that night.
That's awesome. And that's the thing a lot of fans don't, take into consideration or talk about is players playing through injuries. And they'll be like, oh, he had a bad night or he struggled. And it's like, you don't know all the details going on, the injuries you're playing through. Like you said, you switched to the 4 and we're playing just back to the basket that night.
Right.
And someone that doesn't know about the injury might criticize,
Right. I mean, yeah, a lot of people don't know, but I mean, think about it. In my era, and right before I got to the league, they used to play 3 games in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And the year I came in the league, I think they had just stopped it. So you could play game, day off, game, day off. And now you play game, then they give you like 3 days. You can play like 4 games in 6 nights or 5 nights, 6 games in like 9 nights. That's a lot wear and tear. It ain't like going to the gym at the YMCA or local gym and play.
Yeah.
You're not going to get that physicalness. I mean, yeah, some guys get hit hard. Some guys get where they twist their ankle, but not nightly where you know there's a possibility of somebody getting hurt. And
Yeah.
so it's totally different. And it's a lot of wear and tear. You think about it, 82 games, and you got 6 months to get 82 games in there.
Yeah.
It's like a game every other day.
Yeah.
It's a 82 games, and you got 180 days because then you got the playoffs coming up.
Yeah.
You know, and so now they when they used to have what we call the mini series, you play 3 games. Now that first round is 7 games.
Yeah.
It used to be 3 when I played, or no, 5. The year before it was 3, and then my year I came in, it was 5, and then now they do the first round in 7 games. So if you make all 4 rounds, you could play another total of 28 games in 2 months.
Yeah.
That's a lot of basketball in 2 months.
Absolutely.
You go to game 7, they're all game to each series. That's 28 games.
The fans love it, but you don't think about the consequences that come along with it.
Well, it's a lot of things that come with it, but I tell people, and I ain't even gonna lie, I wouldn't change it for nothing in the world.
Yeah.
Only thing I probably would have did, I probably would have said, because of what I know now, go ahead and repair my knee now, fix me up now, instead of playing from January. And I think I had that surgery. I can't remember the exact date, but I know it was like the 15th, somewhere around the 10th or 15th, because that first round is the first part of, late part of April going into May. And I knew I had it somewhere around that first week or 2 of May when I had my surgery. And I didn't play any ball that summer. I didn't even play again until training camp.
Yeah.
I had a lot of swelling and a lot, because I told the college under the kneecap and the meniscus. So I had a lot of swelling throughout training camp. And actually, a couple of times I didn't even practice during the week.
Did that limit you the rest of your career? Do you believe that knee injury?
Yeah, like I said, when I got to Boston, I would say my second year, I went in for a dunk. I dunked it, but I was like, shit, I need to get up higher than this.
Yeah.
So, early in your career, you don't see it. If you watch highlights of me in Phoenix, I got up fairly well. New York, going to the hole and dunking it underneath the basket. Boston, same thing, but man, there was some times I was like, I had no lift. I still dunked it, but I didn't have the lift that I normally had. So I felt that as I got late into my career.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead.
So in 1988, you were voted to the NBA All-Star game. What did it mean to you to make the team?
It was a great feeling. I didn't take it as seriously, I just didn't take it seriously when I got there. And it showed in my play. I was 1 for 9, out hanging out and stuff. And I just didn't take it seriously. I think if I had to do it all over again, I took the All-Star game a lot serious. Those guys were having fun. I was having fun. And I just told Pat Riley, I just need to make sure I scope. And Keem Olajuwon gave me a pass, and I just dunked it. I just jumped and dunked it. I didn't care who jumped. I just dunked it. And then I came out the game, and I was done for the night.
Yeah. Now, can you tell me about like going up against how great were, because a lot of kids these days like to talk about that era of basketball that you played in. They make jokes like plumbers and janitors and say it wasn't a skilled era. How great were those Celtics teams, the 86 Celtics or the 87 Showtime Lakers? Like you went to the Western Conference Finals against those Showtime Lakers, put up 42 and 10 on them.
Right. They were very good. Trust me. I mean, think about it. You got Worthy, Byron Scott, Michael Cooper, and we already know about Magic and Kareem.
Yeah.
Then you got AC Green. Those guys, they were good, man. That's all I could. We could never beat them. They 8-0 against me in playoffs. But They were good, man. The Lakers, they were just good, man. You couldn't stop them. I mean, we were doubling Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I did a tweet and wished him happy birthday and say after all these years, I couldn't believe that we was doubling this guy at age 42. You can't double Magic. You can't double Worthy. You can't double Kareem. That's just too many people to leave open.
Yeah.
And then you got guys like AC hitting the jump shot, Myron Scott hitting the jump shot. You got Michael Cooper hitting jump shots. And then I think that on that team, they had Michael Thompson that came in late that year.
Yeah.
You got 4 number ones. The Lakers were tough, man. There ain't no doubt about it. They were tough. And the Boston Celtics, they were just as tough. They 85-86 team, when they added Bill Walton. Bill Walton didn't have to do a lot but played 15, 16 minutes a game for them. You know, you got Hall of Famer Kevin Hale and Larry Bird and Robert Parrish and Dennis Johnson and borderline Hall of Fame with Danny Ainge. Come on.
Yeah.
How do you beat those guys?
Yeah.
You just don't beat them. You hope to stay in the game. You hope they have – and look at their records.
Yeah.
They always 1 and 2 in the league.
Yeah.
They may be 1 in their conference, but they may be 2 overall in the league. And they were good. I mean, you get a shot like Ralph Sampson shot on the Lakers, and what that was 86 when he hit that shot, and then Boston beat them.
Yeah.
But I mean, they were the 2 best teams back
Yeah.
then. They were the only ones flying. They were the only ones flying private planes back then.
Wow.
Nobody knew that. And then until Detroit started doing it, and then it kind of got out there. The Lakers been doing it the whole time. You know, while everybody else is commercial, you know? So those guys were good, man. And, you know, there's some other guys I probably left off, like Darren, what's his play for UCLA? Darren, what was it? Darren Day? What's his name? From UCLA. He was good coming off the bench for them. Rick Roby. Man, they had a good team, Boston, man. They were tough to beat. I mean, they were kicking everybody's tail.
One of the big what ifs with that Celtics team is Len Bias. Imagine what he would have brought to that team, man.
Man, I remember, man, I was in my house and came across that Len Bias had died. And I felt like we were copying copies of each other.
Yeah.
He had a nice turnaround. He was a little bit bigger than me. But as far as weight, and he was 6'8", I'm more 6'7.5". He was 6'8", about 220. He had that turnaround jump shot. I used to watch him when I was at Wichita, Maryland, playing. I was like, damn, this guy can play.
Yeah.
And I was looking forward when I seen him get drafted. And then all of a sudden, a couple of days later, he's dead. I mean, I was like, and then Don Rogers dies in football with the Cleveland Browns, man. It was a sad, that 86 was just sad that what happened to those guys. And I was just looking forward to it. But, yeah, he could have changed the outlook of the Celtics history if he stayed alive. You know, because Larry then would have been able to – and they probably could have prolonged Larry's career a little bit longer because now he ain't got to log 38, 40 minutes. Now he could get back down to maybe 28, 30 minutes a game and be just as effective. Yeah. So that was a tragedy, man. And I still think about what if. And what if I'm playing against Len Bias? I mean, I would love to see that matchup one day, but I'm never going to see it. Yeah. Because of what happened.
Yeah.
And that 86 draft was tough anyhow.
Yeah.
That was a tough 86 draft.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dustin.
So, in 1989, you played all 82 games, but came off the bench in favor of Derek McKee.
Right.
Did not starting upset you, or were you pretty cool with being a 6-man?
Well, I think that I was probably more upset because I didn't lose the position. I never lost the position.
Yeah.
Derek never outplayed me. I was at the 2 most of training camp, and Dale Ellis was doing a hole-out. And when Dale Ellis was holding out, because sometime I would go in and play the 2. But I knew Dale was going to be back at that 2, and I felt like I was going back to that 3. I had a great training camp. I had some issues with the knee, but I never lost that position. I could understand if I lost that position,
Yeah.
then I would. But me and Derek McKee, that's my man.
Yeah.
But he never beat me out for that position. And I think, and somebody had to kind of tip me to what about basketball. I got drafted by Lenny Wilkins, right? Bernie Bickerstaff became the coach after I got drafted. And this is what I'm assuming. I don't know if it's true. Did you know who got drafted by the Seattle Supersonics in '87? Scottie Pippen.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know.
Scottie Pippen was playing very well. We drafted him and traded him for Olin Polynice.
Yeah.
Then we swapped. So that pick with Olin and Derek was swapped with them. So now Scottie goes to Chicago, and he's playing well. Now he's in the lineup. It was brought to my attention. That's why you're not in the lineup. And I wasn't happy with it, but I never complained. You won't find one article. I didn't lose the position. I respect Derek. I love him. He was like a little brother when I played in Seattle. And so when I got traded, he got that position full time because he was 6'9", but he was 210, so he wasn't big enough to guard the power forward. So, like I said, Sean Kemp was up and coming. So when I get traded, Sean Kemp moves in that lineup now. And I guess they still wasn't happy with Derek, and they traded for Detlef Schrempf, which it was up to me and him in 1985. I still say I was the better player. I love Detlef. Detlef's a great guy. Just with him over a month ago in Seattle. I like him, but at that time coming out and just keeping it real, I fit that team better than he did at that time.
Yeah.
And so Derek, I think he came like 2 years later. And then now he's in Seattle and Magic's retired. So the Sonics had a good team. I just felt like I helped that team get to where it was at.
Yeah.
We was 31 games, and then we went 39 games, 44 games, 48 games, and then we kind of fell off and finished 41 and 41 after 5 years. Then we got Gary Payton. And I felt like we were going to be good. But, you know, now you're taking Nate McMillan out, bringing Gary in. You got me, you got Michael Cage and Derek in the lineup. That lineup was too small.
Yeah.
Michael Cage 6'9". Derek McKee 6'9". I'm 6'7.5". We playing against some big teams in that late 80s, man. Those teams were big.
Yeah.
So now what do? So now you trade me, you put Sean Kemp in there. At least you go 6'9", and then they brought in Bernard Benjamin with Olin Polynice, and now you're back to where you were at. So now I became expendable. So like I said, they bring Ada Johnson in and move him to come off the bench, which fit him perfectly because he played off the bench in Phoenix.
Yeah.
You know, send me to Phoenix. And, you know, I thought it was a great fit. We won 55 games. But I realized that they're just putting me in a corner. I'm not an Eddie Johnson type shooter. I'm not a Marley shooter. I like to dance with that mother a little bit, put it between the legs and maybe, you know, bounce with it and then pull up on you, you know. And we won 55 games. We just met Utah, who won 54 games and beat us.
Yeah.
And then they shipped me to New York. And so, you know, the contract problems with New York. I had a decent year in Phoenix, you know, being the, you know, after Tom and Kevin, either being the third or fourth Horner check, you know. So, I mean, I averaged like almost 16 with Phoenix. So we won 55 games, and then I go to New York, like I said, and I got the contract issue. I never talked about my contract. If it's going to work out, it's going to work out, but I'm buying it out. I let everybody know I'm buying it out. It just didn't get taken care of. Now I'm on the Sonics, Phoenix, New York, and Boston, all within 2 years.
Yeah.
Less than 2 years.
Well, let's talk about that Knicks team real quick, because that's one of my favorite teams. That the 92, 93, 94 Knicks. And that 7-game series with Chicago, I mean, the iconic image. When I think of Xavier McDaniel, I think of you and Jordan going head to head, forehead to forehead, and
Right.
you guarding Scottie Pippen. What was that 7-game series like against the Bulls in that playoffs?
Physical. Yeah. They try to say how physical we were. If you go back and watch those games, man, I took some hard licks in that game. I had a concussion in there. Cartwright hit me with an elbow, and I was pissed. And when I tell you I was pissed, I was ready to knock his tail out. And I went to the hole one time in New York. I can't remember which game it was. And Michael comes and just clobbered me across the head. And I mean, he knocks the crap out of me. We had to call a timeout because I was trying to recover. It was a physical game. Both teams were being physical. They didn't try to claim that we were much more physical than them, but that's bull crap. Michael always crying about this, and this. And, we hit them with some tough shots, but it was a physical game, man. That's what you dream about. You dream
Yeah.
about playing against the best player in the league, and then you dream about being in a tough series. That's what you dream about. You out
Mhm.
on the playground, oh, I'm Dr. Jenny. I'm going up against Bill Walton and I'm taking it under. That's what you're on the playground doing. Now you're doing it for real. So that's what you gotta love. And I loved it. I love every minute of that. And I mean, I love it. I love it, man. And it was when you go back and look, all those games, game 1, game 2, I think they beat us by 10 or 12, game 3. But all the rest of them was like separated by less than 5 points,
Yeah.
except for game 7. I think they beat us by 16 games, 20 games. They kind of pull away late. It was good early, and they got away. They start creeping and getting away from us. But that was a hell of a series, man.
What,
I
what
just wish they would have just let us run it back 1 or
yeah.
2 more years, even if they
Yeah.
just signed me to a 2-year deal.
Yeah, 93. It's the Eastern Conference Finals. Bulls Knicks rematch. Knicks are up 2-0 and then
Yeah,
lose 4 straight, but they could have used a guy like you. And 94, I think if you were on that 94 team, they go 7 games with the Rockets. I think you could have pushed them over the
yeah.
edge and got a championship for Ewing and
I,
you in New York.
I felt like we could have beat them in that series in '92, even though we didn't. I felt really good about that series.
Yeah.
I felt really good about it. So I'm thinking, come back '93. I know we're going to be right there again. I know what it takes to play with Patrick Ewing now, and because we will both run to the box,
Mhm.
and I'm like, get the fuck out, Pat. I got it. Sometimes he would leave, sometimes he did. I learned to play with him. I really did. And so I'm thinking that me, him, and Oak, man, I felt like that was one of the best front lines in basketball.
Yeah.
And so when they didn't do it, man, I went to Boston. And you know what happened with Reggie Lewis?
Yeah.
My guy, man, great guy. When he passed, man, I just started crying. We had to go to the funeral. Uh, that was a tough situation back then. And that kind of changed the way we won 51 games. People don't realize we won 51 games that year. We
Yeah.
finished 4th in the Eastern Division. So now we finished 4th. He dies and the Sonics up. I mean the Hornets upset us. And I always tell people, I said, Chris, just call a timeout. You ever talk to him? Ask him, did I say call a timeout? We got on the plane, on the bus heading to the plane, and one of the assistants, Jennings, was looking it up, and he said X was right. Only thing we do is if we call a second timeout in the NBA, if you get a rebound and advance and call a timeout, you cannot advance the ball because you moved the ball.
Mm-hmm.
You come out the timeout, you call a second timeout, then you can advance it.
Yeah.
If they would have just called it, I said, just call the timeout. We would have won that game because we'd have brought the ball in the front court, and they wouldn't have never got a 10-second count. They would have had to foul us, and we were a very good free throw shooting team. And they would have had to make I think we were at 1, so they would have had to make a 3 if we make both of them, something like that.
Yeah.
So we possibly could have won that game. I'm not saying because we didn't win it, But if we was able to bring that ball up and they would listen, and we got on the bus, Janice was like, X was right. We had them call. They didn't know. I said, because Portland did it. We
Yeah.
had played Portland in a double overtime game, and they did it because they moved the ball, called a timeout, and then they called another timeout after they came out the timeout. And I think the coach can only call that timeout. So we could have possibly extended it, but man, they played so well at home, man. It was unbelievable how they played and how loud the Charlotte Coliseum was. It was really loud, but that was a good game. But like I said, that's what you dream about.
Yeah. Yeah, hell of a career, man. Some of the best series, some of the best matchups, playoff success on some great teams. I mean, those Sonics teams you were on early in your career are very underrated. A lot of people don't talk about those teams with you, Dale Ellis, Tom Chambers.
Yeah.
Those
Well,
Knicks.
think about it. When you're talking about them, you got the Lakers, you got Portland, you got San Antonio, you got Houston, and we would always fall in. Houston, you never know what they're gonna do because we was playing 4 and 5. They were 5, and we beat them. They were 6, I think, or 6 when we beat them in '87, something like that. So they were always good, but they got over that hump because they stepped with the core players. And I felt like, but me and Dale Ellis, man, we got in that altercation, and I think that's when they decided that, we can use this as a way to break it up.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of teams that fight, but when you're winning, nobody ever talks about that.
Yeah.
You never hear that.
And you talk about the draft picks and all the politics that go into sports too.
Right.
It's not just winning. There's a lot of politics.
Right. But I mean, like I said, man, I love Seattle.
Yeah.
I'll be glad when they get a team because that's who I'm identified with. I'm identified with New York because a lot of people think you was only there for 1 year. Yeah, 1 year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how much that series made it think in the Boston. I mean, not the Boston, but the Chicago Bulls and the Knicks series brought over the years. People thought I was still there, and I wasn't.
Yeah.
So, and people identify me with Boston, man. I've always had a great time in Boston. I tell people used to go to this Italian restaurant called Cippello's, and I wasn't playing my last year. Me and Sherman, we both love pasta, especially shrimp fettuccine and chicken fettuccine. Give Mr. McDaniel what he wants and put it on my tab. I don't know why they're not playing you, man. You play hard. I appreciate it. And I go down Newberry Street, man, and people would not even let me pay for my food.
That's awesome.
And that's why when people talk about Boston, I didn't have that experience. I could never say anything negative about Boston. Boston and New Jersey, even Phoenix. I mean, New Jersey, I don't know. I just didn't experience some of the things that a lot of guys say they experience with certain people or certain cities. I mean, I go anywhere in New York. The XMan.
Yeah.
I mean, man, why you in line, man? Come on. The restaurant, man, we got to get the XMan in here and eat. Or in New Jersey, man, or Boston, anywhere, Seattle, man. It was great, man. I had a great ride. And I tell people, man, ain't nothing like the NBA, man. They can talk about football. They can talk about baseball. There's nothing like basketball, man. I love it.
Well, we appreciate you coming on. This was awesome. It was great talking some basketball with you. Thanks for reaching out.
All right, anytime, man. You got my number.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Dustin.
I ain't like a lot of guys that change the number. I had the same phone number for 1997, 98, same exact number.
Man, I was bragging to some friends the other day. I was like, man, I just got off the phone with Xavier McDaniel. Like, you can't know how cool that is to me.
Yeah, the only thing about it, like, I had to store you in because what happened was when you called me, the iPhone thinks you spam.
Yeah.
So once I store you in, boom, that mug ring. I ain't like a lot of people, man. I tell people all the time, I got one number, I ain't got no voicemail number, and I check it. I've never done that, man. If I don't want to talk to you, I just like, man, I want to fucking talk to you.
No,
but,
we appreciate you. You're a real one for sure. And
right.
are you Go ahead, Dustin.
Oh, I just wanted to say thank you, man, for the
Yeah.
education of the, late 80s, early 90s basketball. I'm a little behind, but I'm starting to learn more and more with the interviews, and I
Right. Okay. Anytime, man. Like I said, y'all got my number. Just hit me up.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks so much and have a great
All
day.
right.
Thanks,
All right.
X-Man.
You too.
Yeah,
All right.
later.
Later.
And everyone, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let us know what you think and have a great week, guys. Peace out.